What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to GDT Live, presented by the Game Day Tarps podcast. My name's Daeden Colton. Alongside me, Colton Davies. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday. It's almost the weekend, fellas, but we've got a couple more days of shows this week. Today, a great guest, Daeden Bernstein, senior writer at the Fourth Period, covers the LA Kings. Also works with SIRIUS NHL. It's going to be a great guest. He's been covering the Kings for years before I was even alive. So this is going to be a great interview today with Daeden. Colton, how you doing today?
I am good. I told everybody yesterday we were having Stefan Rosner on because I thought yesterday was Thursday, and I was really disappointed afterwards as he found out in our group chat that yesterday was not Thursday. So today is Thursday. Today we have Daeden Bernstein. Very excited to have him aboard. Longtime NHL beat writer for the LA Kings. But hey, I got some World Junior Summer Showcase stuff I want to talk about right off the bat here. And there's one player in particular that I know you drool over and you're going to want to hear about.
It's the wrong 11, but he's right here. It is 11's son.
That's true.
Yes,
that's true. So before we get to Canada's game and that embarrassment, I guess, if you want to call it that, 6-3 loss to Finland. Let's well, it's part of the same conversation, but Atus Koivu, okay? Let's talk about him for a second, because I don't know if I just butchered that name, but did I butcher the first name?
No, it's Atus Koivu.
Yeah, okay, I was right.
Yeah,
good to know. So just going into, you would think I'd be prepared for this. Stephen Ellis had a really great, our friend Stephen Ellis over at Daily Faceoff had a really great breakdown last night regarding the World Junior Summer Showcase games. Stephen's doing lots of recaps, daily recaps. Anyways, let's park some time and talk about this for a second. This is from Stephen Ellis. I don't know if there's anything he can't do at this point. Koivu has done such a great job of exploiting open ice, and his power play goal gave his team so much life. He has been Finland's best player throughout the entire tournament and should remain a key piece of the team at various other U20 tournaments coming up. That's some good praise for the kid, right?
Definitely.
You're not talking about, like, I know that he has big shoes to fill in terms of his, his father and what's going on there, but he still has been doing great. I think he's got a fantastic career ahead of him, regardless of what happens here, if he stays in the NHL or plays pro in Finland. But my question to you, Daeden, I mean, how exciting is that you guys in Montreal have so many incredible prospects coming in through the pipeline?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say you guys, because I wish I was there. I wish I was a part of all that,
Sure.
The great stuff coming up in Montreal. But no, Atus Koivu, like you said, big shoes to fill. But you're talking about a kid who's not even a first rounder. Like this is some pretty high praise for a kid that didn't get taken in the first round, and he was passed up on. He's not the biggest kid either. So I mean, for him to be able to do all that stuff at his size, and he's not small, I shouldn't say at his size, but he's only 5'10", 5'11", I believe, and he doesn't have that much weight on him yet. He's only a youngster, so I mean, you let this kid develop, and maybe he might turn into something good for the Montreal Canadiens in the prospect pool, and he might turn out to be something like his father.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all you can hope for, right? Or his uncle, Mikko, whatever you can get out of him.
Yeah, definitely. Both great players.
Canada ultimately dropped yesterday's game 6-3. Sweden beat the Americans 6-3 as well. The games, like Stephen pointed out, there's no gold medal, there's no trophy at the end of this. This is just to see who can play come December, right? So take this tournament with a grain of salt. But obviously, Matthew Schaefer came out last night after the game and said his words about just not wanting to lose, and that he takes losing very seriously, and that they'll try and bounce back better for the next game. And I think Schaefer's a guy that you're heavily going to lean on this year in the World Juniors, considering he's a first overall pick. But yeah, I think just the long of what I was trying to say there was there's not a lot of salt to be taken in this, right? It's just players kind of getting to know each other and how things are going, but it's been impressive so far, nonetheless.
Yeah, you say there's no salt to be taken in this, but I don't know if you remember last year's World Junior Summer Showcase when Canada and Sweden played. Was it Ivar Stenberg or one of the players, I believe, on the Swedish team had a couple of mocking or taunting,
right,
like instances where he went by the Canadian bench and kind of stirred the pot a little bit. I don't know. Yesterday's game, Hage looked like he was giving a couple shoves to a Finnish player there. So there's always stuff to go around, and obviously these teams are filled with the majority, like, of the cores of the World Junior teams, along with a few players that might not make it. I'll ask you a question. What player on Canada's roster do you think maybe has a spot to make the roster that you probably weren't expecting?
Honestly, and this is recency bias based off our talks we've had, but Owen Protz. I think Owen Protz has a chance to make the blue line. He is a defenseman, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I had to double check that for a second. I was like, we talked about him being a defenseman yesterday with Reed Duthie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Protz. I think Protz.
Anthony Donati, the prospect Don, actually had a tweet out yesterday saying what prospect is your favorite at the World Junior Summer Showcase, and I replied with Philadelphia Flyers prospect and Moncton Wildcats defenseman Spencer Gill, and he answered back with just that. That's just how he answered the tweet.
Hey, yeah. Daeden, Big Willie Styles in the chat asking a civilian question. Can NHLers play in the World Juniors? Yes, they can. Matthew Poitras did it. I mean, that's just the most recent player. Of course, tons of other players.
Curtis Lazar.
Yep, exactly.
That was one of the most key loans from an NHL team in the recent years, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's a great way to, you can fill your roster out with NHL guys. So Schaefer makes the NHL this year and plays with the Islanders. It's up to the Islanders if they want to let him go play at the World Juniors, but it likely happens. You want your player to have those reps and be able to play at a high level and play in some intense games. And whether the Islanders are going to be playing intense games this year in terms of playoff spots, it's, you want Schaefer to get the best for his development. And if going to the World Juniors is something that benefits him, then there you go. Like Schaefer said, he's not going to run into a post this time. So you're going to get him for more than one game.
Something that I wanted to bring up, I used to be a goalie until my second year of Adam. And then I was like, you know what, Mom, I can't do the straps on the bottom of my pad that go through the skate holder. So I quit. I'm a player now. But I always was a goalie gear nerd. And Carol Vermelka posted a picture of his new setup for the Utah Mammoth. I'll throw it up here. These are probably the nicest pads in the league. I'll say it hands down. The white base with the light blue and the black, the mammoth faces pointing together when you put the pads together, like that's pretty. That's a pretty set of pads.
He knocked it out of the park there. Brian's gear, whatever they're called there, they do excellent stuff. I've seen some really unique pads and unique things from their company. Definitely.
Brian's is one of my favorite. I was always a big CCM guy with my gear. I still am a big CCM guy. I love it when goalies kind of get creative like that. You see it for international tournaments and stuff where goalies will put their flag or like the Hockey Canada logo or something on their pads. But I think that looks so good.
Yeah, it looks unreal.
Willie said those are sick.
Yeah, well, Big Willie, you are correct. They are sick. Yeah, Bauer makes good gear too. You're correct. Some news that just got dropped in a work chat for me. An article from the Oilers Nation guys went out just recently. Oilers GM Stan Bowman is very encouraged by early talks of an extension with Connor McDavid. So no surprise there, of course. Jeff Jackson is going to get it done no matter kind of what happens. So I think that that's important. And yeah, you LA or not LA, sorry, I just thought of LA because I saw Dennis pop in. But Edmonton, they need to get that done. And there's no way they don't just pay him whatever he asks, right? Like that's everything I've heard. It's whatever you want, you will get it.
Definitely. One more thing I want to touch on before Dennis pops in here. Vicky Sunohara, the coach of the University of Toronto Varsity Blues, just got named yesterday for I don't know how many consecutive years she's been behind the bench of Canada's U18 team, but she does a great job. She does a fantastic job leading that team. They've been to the semifinals, and they lost to the Czechs a couple years ago. They went to the final last year, I believe, and Vicky Sunohara also does a great job behind the bench. She was there when I was there at U of T, so just have to put a shout out to her. A couple of Nova Scotians also on that team, Avi Adam and Raya Stewart. Raya Stewart, the first goalie ever at Cape Breton Eagles training camp, and she played a couple games actually last time she was at training camp. So shout outs all around there to the Canadian U18 women's team.
Nice, that's sick.
Definitely. But Dennis Bernstein is backstage. So Colton, without further ado, why don't we welcome him on?
Yeah.
Dennis, how's it going today?
Hey, Daeden. Colton, I'm doing great. Great to be on the podcast with you guys today.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Let's, I've always wanted to know, Dennis, how long have you been covering the LA Kings for, and what drew you to covering them?
Too long. No, just kidding. Let's see. Covering the Kings, so probably since I moved to Los Angeles, which would have been, 25 years ago? Probably since they moved into Staples Center, basically, or what is now Crypto.com Arena. So turn of the century, 2000, is when Staples opened, I believe. So just on 25 years, which I guess is some sort of anniversary. So what made me want to cover them? Well, I started my career in New Jersey doing a little fan newsletter and involved into a radio show. And then I moved to Los Angeles at the end of the millennium and just kept on going, kept on pushing. And here we are today as I guess a mainstream media member at this point. The chapter chair for the Hockey Writers Association in Los Angeles. I get to vote for all the major awards. So that's how we got to this point, I guess.
You've seen LA hockey change all around, right in front of your eyes. What was it like first coming into LA? And obviously the height of Gretzky was there. And how was it compared to now?
Well, it was tough. I came in right after Wayne got drafted or got traded to St. Louis. So the first 7 or 8 years before Dean Lombardi got there, it was tough. It was brutal. They had decent teams, but not great teams. When Dean came in, things changed. He built infrastructure. He built process. He brought in Darryl Sutter at some point to win 2 championships. So it's changed a lot, and it's changed again. Through the Rob Blake era, they never won a playoff round. And this is a team and an organization and fan base that had been used to success at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And so now they're trying to get back there. Rob decided to step away. They said it was mutual. I'm not sure if it was mutual or not. But and now Kenny Holland's here to try to get this team in place to become a contender. And that's the question. Is a team that's been averaging, 98 points a season for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Are they really a Stanley Cup contender, or are they just a cut below? I think we'll find out this season. What might help is not playing the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs because you can't seem to get past that team. But it was an interesting offseason because of the big moves that they made. They weren't big moves. They weren't Brock Besser. They weren't Mitchell Marner, but they addressed their depth issues that they had in the playoffs against the Oilers.
Go ahead, Colton.
Go for it.
All right. Well, Dennis, one player that I noticed that the Kings brought in this season, I'm very familiar with him as I watched a lot of Montreal Canadiens games the past few seasons. Yoel Armia has had a good role in Montreal, and he's a good role player. how much of an impact is he going to make bringing in some veteran presence?
Well, I don't think you'll have a situation where you had last season in the games 3 and 4, where you had a situation where you had forwards playing 2 minutes a night or 3 minutes a night. That just won't cut it. Jim Hiller did not trust his depth because you have rookies. You had Jeff Malott. I think one of the big injuries and one of the reasons Joel is there is the Tanner Jeannot injury. They really missed Tanner in the playoffs, not able to play a fourth line. So a fourth line with Corey Perry and Joel Armia, it's better than what they had last season. Now the question is who's going to be in the middle there. You want Alex Turcotte to emerge. See that type of play with Yoel and Corey? Not sure. Maybe Samuel Helenius is more suited for that. So it's going to be interesting to see. But it's a situation where, and I know people were on Jim Hiller because of his coaching decisions, because of the ability to make that challenge in Game 3 and not being able to hold on a lead in Game 4. But part of the reason wasn't coaching. The coaching decision was, I can't trust but 9 forwards. I can only trust 4 defensemen. So that's why you saw Armia. That's why you saw Perry. I'm sure we'll talk about Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin as well. So the moves that Ken Holland made went to address the deficiencies they had in depth last season. Whether it works or not, we got to play through the season and see.
Definitely. The depth is something that most teams want to fill out before the season gets going. And I think that Ken Holland and the LA team or the LA staff have done a decent job so far. But like you said, we'll have to get through the season and see.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, look, here's the thing. They're going to be about a 100-point team again. They could win the division because look, everybody is talking about Mitchell Marner in Vegas, but I'm talking about the fact that there's no Pietrangelo and there's no Haig, who was a really solid player for them, and Nick Roy, who's a really good 4C. So I don't think they'll be good defensively. The Oilers, I don't know. Like, it's going to be the same old, same old. They're going to go with youth. They went with the veterans last year. Are they any better? They didn't improve in that. So it's going to be interesting to see. But this has to be – you bring in Kenny Holland not to rebuild. You burn him into retool. Maybe he can make some bigger moves, which he didn't really make big moves in the offseason, to get this team over the hump and get them to maybe a conference final or even a Stanley Cup final. They have talent. They're a talented team. They're going to be in the mix. They may be still a couple below the teams that we think perennial contenders, like a Florida, like a Toronto, like Edmonton, like Dallas. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kenny Holland's moves will work out with respect to the season.
Dennis, they but they traded away a young defenseman in Jordan Spence. They still got a guy like Brant Clark on the back end, a right-hand shot defenseman, both of them right-hand shots. Do you think Spence is a big loss for the Kings, or do you think that spot could be filled by someone pretty quickly?
Well, here's the thing. Spence is probably going to play top 4 in Ottawa, right? He wasn't going to play top 4 here. They told him that because on the right side, you have Drew Doughty. I know people are banging on Drew because he didn't look like the old Drew Doughty after this injury, and it might take a year for him. I want to see how he plays next season, because the season before he got hurt, he had a 50-point season. He had 15 goals. He played really, really good. So with Drew Doughty and Brant Clark and a lot of, the best option for Jordan Spence was a third pair. And he's not a third pair guy. A third pair guy is more like a Cody Ceci or Edmondson's actually a second pair guy, or a Dumoulin, right? It didn't fit for him. He wasn't happy with his role. And he had a request to be traded, and he went up and played in Ottawa. Liked the kid, got to know him here. He'll do well. He's not a big defenseman. They needed size on their third pair. And so they made the decision to get away from Jordan Spence, who I think will be fine in Ottawa, and went towards the Ceci and Dumoulin on the third pair. I think it's just an organizational decision with respect to what their defensive core needs to look like for them to win in the playoffs.
Dennis, the Kings have a guy in the net like Carter George. He's a young guy. He's at the World Junior Summer Showcase right now for Team Canada. How long do you think it might be until the Kings or he gets some time in the Kings crease?
I think it's at least a couple of seasons, because remember, they finally have depth in the goaltending position. Because here's the thing, Darcy Kemper, he was a Vezina nominee. Not that he was going to win it, because Hellebuyck was certainly going to win it, but I don't think there's going to be that much regression. But they have depth here. They have Eric Portillo in the AHL. They have Slakinski, the Hammer, the other kid who played at Western Michigan, and they have Carter George, who they got in the second round. So they're set. But you can have patience. They brought in Forsberg as a 2B. So The fact that they brought in Forsberg to replace Rittich, I think, is an upgrade, and certainly an indication that these guys are still a couple of years away. So, but it's a nice pipeline to have. They might wind up having to trade one of those goaltenders because I'm not sure all three can get there, which will help them in the trade if they want to get another defenseman or maybe a scoring winger. So, but it's at least a couple of years away from Carter George. But they love the pick. They love the way they got him in the draft in Vegas last year. So the future's bright for the Kings in net, even after Darcy Kemper. Playing days are over.
Definitely. And like you just alluded to, they have Hampton, Slatinsky, and Carter George. So I think it might be almost like a Jordan Spence situation where you want to get the spot that you deserve to play. The best option might be a trade for one of them.
Agreed. Yeah. And it's good to have a surplus of goaltenders because goaltenders these days get hurt a lot more than they did, when I was young, when I was your guys' ages. The guys who should play 72, 80 games, whatever, they don't play that much anymore. So yeah, it's a really good pipeline. So when you look at the depth of this team organizationally, you could argue that the best depth is in net right now, which is something that wasn't the case even a year or two ago.
Hey, Dennis, what's the outlook for Jim Hiller this season? How do you feel he's going to approach the year?
Well, I think they have to tweak what they did, right? Certainly, assuming the team gets to the playoffs, Colton, you got to play your depth more. You got to lean into playing 4 lines. You got to play 3 pairs, right? He made some mistakes in the playoffs, so learn from that. And people say, well, it's a rookie coach. Well, no, he did lose to Edmonton last year, too, when he was the interim coach. Maybe a little bit of tweak, maybe a little less passive with respect to their play. Now, they're not going to be an off-the-rush team, right? They don't have enough requisite speed to do that. But I just think more of the same. It's still going to be a defensive first team. They're still going to check for their chances. The style isn't going to change much. I'd like to see a little bit more up-tempo with Brant Clark. Let Brant Clark loose. This is the year for Quentin Byfield to become a point-a-game player. So you have a lot of talent. And people forget, it's just, it's an average team offensively. It is, but they had 2 35 goal scorers last year with respect to Kempe and Kevin Fiala. So they can score. And now with a full year of Kuzmenko coming back on a 1-year deal, and he's going to be motivated because he only signed a 1-year deal. Right? I would want to be more aggressive offensively if I'm this team. We'll see what happens. But again, their structure's still there. They're still a solid defensive team. So I expect more than the same. I expect them to be a top 3 team. I don't expect much stylistically different, Colton, from Jim Hiller this season because it's worked. He's had a really good record coming here to Los Angeles. They were phenomenal at home last year. So I don't think too much. And that's what Kenny Holland said when he came in. I'm not going to blow up a 100-point team. The team needs to succeed in the playoffs. And he hopes that the moves he made with the guys that we talked about gets that team over the hump in the playoffs. So I don't think much will change stylistically in the regular season.
The additions of Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin, veteran guys, how do you feel that kind of reshapes the blue line in a sense?
Well, they're not as good this year because they lost Gavrikov. That was a big loss for them. And when you look at the contract that he signed, I'm sure the Kings offered that contract, maybe even offered an 8th year, right? At AAV, it was surprising that Gavi left because he liked it here. He enjoyed it here. It was a really good presence in the room. Overall, top to bottom, are they a little bit better? Yeah, because, again, they were playing, Jordan Spence played 2 minutes and 31 seconds one game, I think. No, it's Jacob Mavari. You can't play a defenseman 2 minutes and 31 seconds against the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs. You can't do it because all they did was, okay, let's wait until these guys get tired. They eventually got tired. And so I know a lot of Kings fans are heading for the exits on the Cody Ceci deal. They didn't like the AAV. I get it. I understand it. But the same fans that didn't like that deal didn't like Joel Edmondson's deal last year. And last year, Joel Edmondson was great. He was a plus 27. He really stabilized the defense back there. And they didn't have them when he wasn't around when Drew got hurt. Him and certainly Gavrikov have raised his level. There would have been a lot of trouble. It gets them more like Florida, who has a veteran. Their third pair is usually veteran guys. That's what they usually play down there. When they brought in OEL, when they brought in Nate Schmidt, they brought in veteran guys, and Kenny's trying to replicate that on the third pair. I'll say this: if Cece's playing more minutes than Brant Clark, that's a problem, right? But if he's playing 15 minutes a night, he should be. If Cody Cece's your 6th best defenseman, you got a pretty good defense. That's the challenge. If he's their 3rd best defenseman, then they're in trouble. So I understand why they did it because, again, there was a trust issue not using the young players like a Jordan Spence in the playoffs who was scratched after Game 3. So I understand the moves. We'll see if it works. And I'll say one thing about Dumoulin. And Mike Rupp on NHL Network pointed this out to me. He was the Devils' best defenseman in the playoffs. Now, granted, it was only one round, but he played 20 minutes a night, 29 minutes a night. He played more than any other defenseman. So as a third pair option on the left side, that's really good. Now, he might go up to second. Maybe you drop Edmondson to third pair, but Edmondson and Clark worked last year. So I like these moves from a veteran standpoint, and there's some size. Cody Ceci, I think it was top 25 in block shots last year. Now, with a caveat, a lot of the season he played for San Jose, he had a lot of chances to block shots, guys. There's a lot of shots on goal against San Jose, so that's one of the caveats. But a little bit more physicality, a little bit more size in the third pair. I think Kenny Holland thinks that's what you need on the third pair to be successful in the playoffs, and that's why I made those moves.
And then, you talk about veterans, and there's guys like Kopitar, who's a legend there. And then there's Drew Doughty, who's another legend there. But bringing in a guy like Corey Perry, that veteran leadership, what does that do to the locker room?
Well, I know what it did to the fan base. There were fans that swore they would never root for the Kings again. I'm like, so wait a second. So if Corey Perry scores an overtime goal against the Edmonton Oilers, you're going to boo him to win the game? No, you're not going to do that. So I just think that with respect to the veteran presence of these guys are like Corey Perry had a great season last year, and I get it. He played a lot of times with Connor and Leon. He had 19 goals. He had double-digit goals in the playoffs. He can still play. He needs that. They need to be a little bit more snarly around the net, and a little bit more tougher around the net, right? And you can do it with. You can't do it with rookies like Hellenius, who's a big kid. He's 6'6", 200 pounds, and another kid who's big, Andre Lee. That's why they missed Jeannot so much, is his presence. So I think that veteran presence around the net, and Armia is a really good penalty killer as well. That's going to help. But Corey Perry, I joke with the fans. I think Corey Perry's kind of the highest jersey sales in the offseason. Because as many fans say, "Oh, I'll never root for the guy. He's been an enemy of the Kings." A lot of fans that tell me I'm going to buy a Corey Perry jersey, right? Because that's the actual that's a really nice screw you to the Anaheim Ducks fans. And I can't wait for Corey's first game in Anaheim in the LA Kings uniform. So I understand Corey Perry can still play in this league. He can't play 17 minutes, and he did in the playoffs. That's maybe one of the reasons the Oilers didn't win. But if he's going to play 14 minutes a night and give you 15 to 20 goals on the fourth line and play maybe in your second power play unit, it's a good move. Like it's a guy who's still motivated to play. Still $2 million cap hit. I understand why they did it. I got a chuckle out of it. I'm like, oh no way. I'm like, oh wait, they did it. So I think he will help them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Dennis, a guy that you alluded to a couple minutes ago, Quinton Byfield. You said this year might be his year to kind of turn into a point per game guy. What needs to happen for that to happen?
He has to play the entire 82 game schedule like he did the last 30 in the playoffs. He was their leading scorer last year in the playoffs, down the stretch. He was great in the playoffs, right? So more of that. And he's going to get the opportunities because he finally found a spot for him. The marriage, with LaFerriere and Fiala worked, right? So, and not only that, what you saw the last 30 games, which I've waited for a long time, he's got to be more aggressive with his shot. Like he was too differential, and he's becoming the alpha dog they need. He needs to do it this season. And if he does, I think he can get 30, 35 goals and 55, maybe 45 assists and get to that 80-point plateau. Do I think he's a 100-point player like an Austin Matthews or a Mitchell Marner? I don't. Part of the reason is the way this team plays. It's not an up-tempo team. But I think he needs to establish himself as the 1C because this year, Kopitar should be the 2C. It's his last season in Los Angeles. And from what I saw, and like I said, in the last 40 games, Daeden, it was really, really good. So my expectation is he could probably challenge Fiala or Kempe for the scoring title. He should. He's going to be that good because you see some nights he's out there. He's the dominant player. He's so hard to defend, and he's being better. He's better defensively now. You probably won't see him on the penalty kill, but when he plays defensively, his wingspan, he's 6'5". He really progressed defensively. So he has all the components to be that number one center. I think this is the year he does emerge as that, and you might see his point total just get inflated by that amount.
Definitely. I mean, he's got the size to his game. Like you said, 6'5". He's a guy that can get around the net, drive the puck to the net. Yeah. I feel like if Quinton Byfield turns it up, I think he will be that point per game player. Another guy that I wanted to touch on, he was also instrumental in Montreal's run to the Cup final, and that's Philippe Danault. A lot of people say that he is one of the best shutdown guys in the NHL. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah. He was in those games in Edmonton that they lost games 3 and 4. Him and Darcy Kemper were heroes. They played so great. Darcy made incredible saves. Phil played great defensively. Here's the thing. Phil, look, he needs to score more than he did last year. I think he had 9 goals. He had really a lot of trouble scoring until the last couple of weeks of the season. But on a championship team, Phil's a 3C. Like he is. He would be a 3C. He's like different type of football, like Pajot on the island, right? 3C. He's a 3C. He's not a 2C. He's not good enough offensively at this point. He came in here the first season, he had 27 goals. People have to manage their expectations. He was going to get 27. But if he gets 15 as a third-line center, so let's say you go Byfield, Kopitar, Deneau, that can stack up even against a team like Vegas, who's got, Jack Eichel and Hurdle and William Karlsson down the middle. Those 3 guys, they could stack up against anybody in the West. So, yeah, Phil is a 3C. I think he wins most of those battles against the other teams 3C. So still can play, still good, still a good contract. So, and there was some talk about maybe moving him to create cap space. But as a 3C on this team behind Kopitar and Byfield, that's a really good depth chart with respect to the middle for the LA Kings.
Definitely. And I think he's someone that also brings in a little bit of veteran presence. You talk about winning. Yes. Obviously, he hasn't won a championship, but he's been down the line in the playoffs. He's been there with multiple teams. I think his leadership could also play a big factor this year.
Oh, yeah, he's a leader. He's well liked in the room. He's a leader, really good guy. I've got to know him over the last couple of seasons. So he should be part of the winning solution here. If they have to improve this team, it's not by trading Phil Deneau.
Dennis, do you think there's a team in the Pacific Conference, or the Pacific Division, that is kind of not slept on, but people are undermining what they have going on?
Well, I think the most intriguing team in the division, to be honest with you, would be Anaheim, because they traded away Zegras because he wasn't Q's type of player. Now there's some talk about trading McTavish, which doesn't really make sense. They had really good improvement. They had a 21-point improvement last year. They got to 80 points. They're a 500 team. Now, the question is, what happens with Q? Can he make them have the jump? Because they got to improve by another, 8 wins? Like Calgary just missed at 96 points. They got to get to that 95, mid-90s point level. Can he lift them? Dostalson long-term. They did trade Gibson. They brought in Kreider. So it's going to be interesting to see. So for me, the most interesting team of the 8 in this division are the Ducks, because the Ducks, if things break right, they could be playing games of consequence the last couple of weeks of the season. If they do, that's further improvement, because that's what you need. You need to go from bottom feeder, which they were, to like a mid-level team, which they are now, to a contending team or a playoff team. So that's it. And that's why you brought in Joel Kenville, because I know there's a lot of negativity about Joel because of what happened in Chicago, rightfully so. But, we'll see. Can he lift that level? So that's the team I'm really interested in. That's the one team I think could take a really big jump here. Don't think Seattle will. Don't think San Jose will. Calgary stay about the same. Who knows with Vancouver? So the one team that's positioned to take that jump and needs to take the jump would be the Anaheim Ducks. So I'd be interested to see how they play this season.
Dennis, there was a time when teams on the East Coast would have to go do that California swing, and that California road trip used to be a brutal one for East Coast teams. How long do you think it might be until we see that again?
We're getting close. The Kings have to stay up there, because like you mentioned, they're an older team. You mentioned Kopitar, it's his last season. Drew's 35 years old. There's a lot of guys. There's a couple of guys over 30 years old. San Jose's coming. I look at San Jose and Chicago. I just, there's so much joy when I watch the Sharks play. And my friend Randy Hahn, who's a play-by-play guy, said it best one night. They're the most exciting bad team in the league. They're the most exciting worst team in the league that I've seen in a very long time. They give up they gave up 315 goals last year. And that's with Askarov as well in net. So I think it's coming, because another couple more seasons. I like what Mike Greer's done here, right? He's added a couple more players. And Anaheim, as we mentioned, I think they're a team on the rise. So within, 2 seasons, could all 3 teams be in the conversation for the playoffs? Absolutely, they could, because I like what's going on in San Jose, and Anaheim's already on that steady climb up.
Definitely. And Anaheim just signed a guy, Lucas Dostal, someone that hasn't really been too high up in the ranks in the NHL, but I think he's a solid goaltender, and I think he might be the guy that could lead Anaheim into this next step.
He has to be the guy. Right? That's why they traded John Gibson. And he's played very well with a defense that wasn't great in front of him. But when you look at that left side, and they got a lot of young defensemen. And that's one of the other reasons they brought in Kenville, to develop those guys like Mintyukov and Zellweger, and Jackson Lacombe. Like they're coming, man. Their defense is almost set there. The question is, can they score more goals? They were 30th in scoring. That's why they brought in Chris Kreider. So when you hear the narrative and the chatter about Mason McTavish, I'm like, well, Mason's your second line center. So unless you're bringing back a more productive second line center, you don't make that trade, right? So it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out with respect to that. But yeah, I think the tough, brutal California trips could be a thing in a couple of seasons from now.
Definitely, they were something that I was always a little worried about when my team went west. But yeah, I think it's something that always makes the league good. Like the league feels good. Hockey feels good when there's a few certain teams that are always doing well. I think the league is always the league does well when the Maple Leafs are doing well, just because they're the face of Canada pretty much. And there's a few teams south of the border when they're doing well, the league does well as well.
Yeah, and plus, I think the rivalry with respect to, I go back to 2014, that 7-game series between the Kings and Ducks was epic, right? You want those rivalries. The Stadium Series game that they played was great. So you want those rivalries, and the Kings and Sharks fans don't like each other. So I think that you get a point where all these teams and contending teams, it will absolutely be the benefit for not just fans here on the West Coast, but all over hockey.
Did you get to cover that the Stadium Series game? Yeah. How was that outdoor hockey on the West Coast?
Fantastic. It was great. And it kisses the entertainment between periods. The perfect night. It was like about 68 degrees. It wasn't like we were sitting, the media was down below in the third baseline, and the way the field was like a crest. So we had to look up at the rink actually from the baseline. So, but it was great. Look, here's the thing. I've been to a lot. I was in Columbus last year. It was fantastic. 90,000 people. You're not going to see a hockey game. You're going to see history. You're going to an event. So you could say you were there. And most of the games are pretty good. Look, the Winter Classic last year in Chicago was bad. Bad game. Bad matchup. Those teams should have been playing. But most of the Stadium Series games, I was in Carolina for that. It's a big party. It's big party. That's what it is. So I get it. Like if you didn't care about the Stadium Series last year between Detroit and Columbus, if you lived in Denver, I get it. It's not for you, right? But for people who think that these are going to stop because maybe the ratings aren't great, I'm sorry. When they stop selling tickets, they'll stop these games. And the last time I checked, it was 90,000 tickets sold in Columbus. You know that the Rangers and Panthers are going to sell tickets for the Winter Classic, and Tampa and Florida. How's that not going to sell out Raymond James Stadium? So the positioning is right. So I think if you go to one of these games, and you should, and I get it, if you don't want to go to the cold weather ones like the one in the Big House, it was freezing when Toronto and Detroit played. But if you wanted to go to the one in Tampa or the one at Marlins Park, go enjoy it. Have a good time. It's a spectacle. It's an event. And so I always enjoy those games, regardless of the quality of the game itself.
What's been your favorite event to cover?
Well, it never sucks to be on the ice when the Stanley Cup's awarded. And for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been lucky to be on the ice when the Cup's there. Did two times around in Florida before that. Was on the ice when Crosby celebrated in Pittsburgh. So I would say that those are, and not only that, but this year, the Four Nations tournament to do it. And we did the pre and post game shows for SiriusXM. What epic hockey. I mean, I was there. I was in press row the first 9 seconds in Montreal when those 3 fights broke out. I've never heard a building louder. So I think consistently my most enjoyable event is the Cup final, the actual awarding of the Cup and being on the ice with the team. But the Four Nations, you can't beat it. And hopefully it's going to be a great lead-in to the Olympics in Milan.
Are you going to the Olympics?
We're talking about it. We'll see. It's a long stretch. It's a long stretch. It's expensive. And the IOC is very, very tough when it comes to media credentials. So we'll see. We're contemplating it. If not, we might go to the Global Series in Stockholm, which is always enjoyable. I've been there, I think, 3 times or 3 times to Stockholm, once to Helsinki. So we're toying with the idea of possibly getting to the Olympics. Yeah.
No, that'd be fun. Going back, you just mentioned Stanley Cup, so we got to talk about it. What was it like to cover the team when they won the Stanley Cups in 2011, 12, and 2013, 14?
Well, it was great because I'm not a fan, but my wife and stepson are fans. So to be on the ice when the team wins at home and you see the fans who never thought they would win a Stanley Cup here in Los Angeles win a cup, especially the first time, because that's, almost 47 years of frustration getting out, not really coming close in 93. And to look up in the stands when you're covering a team and see your wife and family celebrating that, right? That's kind of cool, right? So it's always cool because you see, because the sport is great because of the fans, without question. And just to see the raw emotion from the fans in tears, the team that they love finally win a championship after all those years, it's great to see. It's really like this year, and that's the weird thing. In Florida this year, they almost expected it. It wasn't that big of a deal. Like last year it was, because the Panthers sucked for a long. The Panthers didn't win a playoff round for 26 years. They finally won, and people, nobody goes to the games and stuff. So, but to see it, it's great to see in a rink where the home team wins it, regardless if it was here in in Los Angeles or anywhere. When the home team wins, it's a special celebration, and the cup itself is very, very special. So yeah, it was really, really special. But the same thing with Los Angeles in 14 is like, oh, okay, we won again. That's cool. I mean, the goal was epic, right? The Jazz hand goal by Alec Martinez was great. It was a great run. They won 3 Game 7s. They came back from a 0-3. So that entire run was incredible. But I think the first time a team wins a championship, especially at home, it's a very special night for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had Brent Wallace from the Coming in Hot podcast on earlier this week, and we talked to him about Chris Neil and why Chris Neil's jersey was retired, and we talked about how Dustin Brown has a statue in LA and what he means to LA. What can you say about Dustin Brown and his time with the Kings?
Well, I got to know Dustin and his family personally, so it's a personal thing with me and Dustin and Nicole and everybody. He's a great man. One of the first American. He's the first American captain to raise a cup twice, right? So he's not a Hall of Famer. He's never going to lead. He did lead the team in scoring, I think, 1 year with 33 goals, but he embodied what this organization was about. And I think the salient, moment for him was certainly lifting the cup the first time, but the hit on Henrik Sedin in the playoffs, and you still remember Henrik trying to reach for the boards and try to get off the ice. That's Dustin Brown. Like, he did what was necessary to win a championship. I got to know him. He's a great man, great family man. All the kids are playing travel hockey. He's happy in retirement. I hardly hear from him anymore. But he was a special player here. Like, he's one of the reasons they won. And because he was the captain, he got his statue. Some people say he was not a good enough player to get a statue. That's not your call to make. It's the organization's call to make. And it was a very nice ceremony. I got to see it. He's not like that, though. That's the one thing. He's probably the last person that said, make me get a statue. But that's how important he was to the organization. And he's been a great player for them and a great man and a great friend over the years as well.
Throughout your years covering LA, I'm going to ask you a very loaded question here. But who's on your Mount Rushmore?
With respect to playing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would say it's the core 4, though, right? Kopitar, Brown, Doughty, Quick. Right. Now, Wayne Gretzky played for this team, but he didn't win a championship. So did Luc Robitaille, was the highest scoring left winger in the history of the league. But those 4 guys, if you're making a Mount Rushmore and it's 4 guys, it's really easy to do, right? Could I substitute Robitaille for Brown? Absolutely, I could. But it's these guys are so closely tied together that it makes it easy for me, because these are the guys that won championships. These are the guys that are rings. These are the guys that all have their jerseys raised to the rafters at the end. Kopitar will be the best LA King ever to play, right? No, there won't be a better goaltender than Jonathan Quick. So because of that, you can argue that, yes, the lesser players, Brown of those 4, because what they did for the franchise, and they took them out of the wilderness and won 2 cups in 3 years, which is really hard to do, guys. That's my Mount Rushmore. Again, it's a personal choice.
Oh, that was easier than I expected.
Dennis, you've been in the game for a while, and you've definitely got some stories to tell. But what would be your main advice to a young broadcaster trying to get into the industry?
don't lose the passion. If you lose the passion, then go do something else, right? And try. And look, you may not succeed. Like, you know what? It's a difficult business to get into. Practice, right? You know, people. I host on Sirius XM, like occasionally with Steve Cooley's 3-hour show, and a lot of people think you just sit down, turn on your microphone, and start talking. No, you have to prep. Like I have to watch. Like if there's 10 games the night before, I'm watching a highlight package for every game. So that's what? That's 10 minutes. And you have to prep 3 hours or 2 hours for a 3-hour show. So prep and ask questions, like, and don't think you know it all, right? Listen more than talk, because that's how you learn. Listen and find people and maybe tag on to someone and says, hey, I'm just starting out, whatever, more established guy. Like I learned so much from, Nick Nixon just retired after 40 some odd years. I'm very close with Jim Fox, Darrell Evans, all the broadcasters, Jared Stoll, because guess what? They played the game. I never did. I can't even skate. So how am I going to learn the game? Well, I'm watching. I've watched a lot of games. And people always say, oh, you've never played the game. What? I get it. But I've probably watched 10,000 games. And I talk to people who know more than me. So be a sponge. Like get information, right? So that's what I would say. And just try your hardest and be outgoing and be upbeat. That's it. And just have a positive nature about you and just push and push and push until you can't push anymore.
Well, Dennis, I don't think there could have been a better answer.
Appreciate that. No problem.
Well, Colton and I usually ask our guests near the end of the show what their favorite jersey is. And LA has had a lot of different jerseys over the years. Could you name one that has kind of stood out to you?
Well, one that stands out is the Burger King one, but it doesn't stand out for a good reason. Look, I'm old school, and I remember when like the Kings gold jerseys were like their actual jersey. Like I'm all that old. But the current one, the way they brought back the current one from the 90s, the black and white, like I didn't like the previous one with the little home plate. It was so uncreative. I never understand why they moved from that big crown to that little home plate. Other than, it's a home plate, defend home plate, defense, whatever. That was the mold of the team. I like the way they went back to old school with respect to that. And they're willing to take chances. That's the one thing about them. Not even the jerseys, the chrome domes. Like that was cool. It's distraction when they wear their chrome domes and then Vegas wears their gold ones. It's a little too much for all of us, I think. But I like what they did because they take chances and they lean back into their history as well. Right. So I really liked what the look is of the new one because it's a little bit more updated look of the 90s old school one. So I like that one probably the best at this point. Although I like the old, like I said, I like the old gold pajamas too, but that's an era from a long time ago. That's from Jack Kent Cooke in the 60s.
I know we talked about this a few minutes ago, the Stadium Series. The Kings kind of brought out some pant shells that were unorthodox. Not really many teams have used white pant shells. But yeah. I loved them. I thought they were amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And the games up in Colorado Springs were great. Other than walking uphill at 6,000 feet, I almost had a heart attack because it was at the Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs. But yeah, they're willing to do that stuff, and they should. It's a big market team. It's Los Angeles. It's entertainment. It's not just hockey, right? So yeah, I think it was great that they went outside the box and do that. And Kelly Cheeseman and the guys on AEG Sports. They want to think outside the box because it's a fashion statement. It's not just look, the gear has to fit right. It can't be cumbersome. It can't be a situation that impedes the players. But this is a type of franchise that should be more aggressive with respect to their style and how they go about things. So yeah, I agree with you. It was outside the box, but it wasn't surprising because it's Los Angeles and that's how we do things here.
Definitely, out of the box is the best way to go sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, Dennis, we appreciate you hopping on today. It's been a great episode. Good luck this season with the Kings going forward and everything you do. But before you go, would you like to tell everyone where you could or where they could find your work?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. People always ask me that question. I say, well, if you can't find me, it's your fault. I'm pretty conspicuous. So let's see. thefourthperiod.com is the website. Dennis TFP, like the fourth period, is my social media handle. I'm on SiriusXM. Once the season starts again, I co-host a show on Saturdays from 11 to 1. I'm also on the Power Play with Steve Cooley's from time to time from 3 to 6 Eastern. So you can find me. I'm not hiding. So that's it. So, and we'll keep busy. I'm doing, I thought I'd be off for 2 months, but it seems that I either get a call for a podcast or a radio station or something in the middle of July or the end of July now. So I'm looking forward to the season. And the Hot Stove is the name of the show on Sirius XMR show. So either radio, sometimes we're on TV, NHL Network. So you can find me if you're looking for me.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dennis. And sorry for keeping you too busy.
No problem at all. Happy to talk to you guys. It was a great time. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Take care.
Cheers.
Well, Colton, a great episode with Dennis. He was a great guest to have on. Lots of stories, and definitely one of the better broadcasters out there in the game today. He's been there. He's done that. Like he said, he's been there with the Cups many times, and that, like he said, is his favorite part of the season.
Yeah, awesome interview. Thank you for taking over for a minute there while I go through day 2 of internet problems while we're live. So that's always fun. Time to pay the internet bill, as Willie would say.
Yes, sir. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back after this to wrap up the show.
Looking for a new way to quench your thirst? Game Day Tarps is now an official Quench affiliate. Head on over to quench.ca/GameDayTarpsPodcast and use our code GameDayTarpsPodcast, all caps, all one word, for 15% off your total order. Stay cool this summer with the #1 sports drink on the market. Stay quenched.
Is the off season bumming you out?
Yeah.
Do you wish you had more hockey content to consume?
Yeah.
Well, head on over to patreon.com/GameDayTarps and check out all the exclusive content we have to offer. Behind the scenes videos, in-depth analysis, and so much more. Select a membership tier and enjoy the content made only for you. Only at patreon.com/GameDayTarps.
Hey, you heard the man. Go to quench.ca, buy yourself some Quench, or head over to our Patreon. I've got a sick day in the life video coming up here in a couple of days. I just have to get to editing that. That's the thing. Colton, another thing. I don't know if you've done it yet, but I've been downloading some episodes. Head over to the Hockey Podcast Network.ca or .com. Go down there to the original content. Find our podcast, Game Day Tarps Podcast, and download the episodes so you can listen to it wherever, whenever, on the road, in the car, on a walk, or with your woman. Like Colton said yesterday, send him a screenshot of you listening to the podcast with your woman, and he'll buy you a burger.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting bullied in the chat by Willie. I don't like this.
Well, I mean, just pay the internet bill.
I know. I did, believe it or not.
Or just tell everybody upstairs that I guess it's 11 to 12 a.m. You're kicking them off the Wi-Fi.
Everybody get off.
Yes, sir. Well, it is actually Friday tomorrow. So do you want to let everyone know who's coming on this time for real? Because it is Friday.
Yes. Yeah, it actually is Friday. Thank fucking God. Stefan Rosner from the New York Islanders is going to come on. We're going to chat with Stefan. You guys have seen him on the sheet. You've seen him on Morning Cup of Hockey. One of Laz's buddies. We're going to get him on. He does great work, though. Like fantastic work for NHL.com and the Hockey News. And then we're also going to have a interview, which will be pre-recorded, but we'll throw it up probably after we're done with Stefan. But with Sam Nestler from the Dallas Stars, works for Dallas Sports, covers the Dallas Stars. Used to work with me here at Daily Faceoff, but he got a better job and he left us and went to Dallas. So good for him. Really looking forward to catching up with him tomorrow. So that bangs off 2 more teams off of our list that we're trying to dwindle down here and talk to a reporter or a broadcaster from every NHL team, kind of go through what the off season's like. So if we haven't hit your team yet, Willie, we haven't hit Minnesota yet. Let us know who we should get on.
Yes, sir. Love to hit all 32 teams. That would be pretty cool. Have some insight for everyone out there. I know there's fans of all 32 teams. Maybe even some Arizona Coyotes fans out there.
33 teams.
What did he just say? La Panta.
That's the it's one of the reporters for the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, well, let's get him on.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Will. We'll work on that. But yeah, tomorrow, Stefan Rosner and Sam Nestler.
Yes, sir. Well, fellas, we thank you for tuning in to GDT Live today. We'll see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, right back here on GDT Live. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.